Send whatever it is that you're worrying about, stressing about, and say, hey, if it's meant for me, I know it's not going to pass me. I'm surrendering it. I'm letting it go. I'm giving it to you. I'm trusting you with this, because that's what I did with this manifestation. And literally the next day it happened.
The Mindspo podcast.
What do you see with your mind's eye?
Welcome back. Let's elevate. Roll your shoulders up and back. Unclench your jaw. Elongate your spine as you take a deep breath in. And now, exhale. Now take your mind to that person, place, or thing that you have gratitude for, and start to feel into the joy available to you at all times. Elevate into a higher vibration as we expand together and dive into this conversation.
Welcome to the Mindspo podcast. My name is Rochelle Fox. I am your host, and you are tuning in for another episode in our Mindspo manifestation series, brought to you by Manifest the app. My friends, I am all giddy today, sitting here in front of this microphone. I have so much energy running through my veins, and I am so excited and so energetic and on such a high that I wasn't sure if I should record this episode. And I want to just put that out on the table and be really transparent about that, because in recording this episode, I'm going to have to do something that is really annoying. But the reason I'm doing that really annoying thing is because in order for me to share the knowledge and the ahas that I want to and just desperately want to get out and put on my podcast, in order for me to share those, I have to share with you the annoying thing. So let's get into it, because you're probably like, what is she talking about? I have something that happened in the last week, a really big manifestation of mine, something that I have been dreaming about for years and years and years, that has been an absolute bucket list thing for me. And that thing has finally fallen into place. It is happening. It's unfolding. But I can't tell you what that thing is right now. And that's the really annoying thing, because I know you're probably like, ugh, she's doing that thing that I absolutely hate. And I get it. I know that's really annoying. But please know, as soon as I can tell you what this thing is, I'm going to tell you. But the reason I need to tell you that is because in this thing unfolding and happening and finally falling into place, I feel like in the last few weeks, there have been 3 big kind of takeaways and steps that have helped me get to this thing finally happening. And while these steps and these personal ahas that I've learned in my own journey are fresh in my head, I wanted to get on my podcast and share them with you. Because the thing I love most about this podcast is that I can take all of the chaos, the ups, the downs, the lessons, the complete roller coaster that is my life, and I can turn it into teachable moments. I think it is so incredible that we live in a time and a space and in a reality where I can literally jump on in my little studio with my ring light blaring, with my colorful lights around me, with my microphone in front of me, and I can share with you things that have helped me on my own path. And I know that in sharing those, it's going to help someone else out there. That to me lights me up more than anything, because when I think about this podcast, I really think about helping you. I really don't want you to go through as many struggles as I have in my own life. I think we're all going to go through our own struggles, but I think it's so cool when we can find people that can cut the learning curve and make things easier for us, help us be more in flow and less in that forcing resistance. I know I've just said something really annoying, which is I have news and I can't tell you yet, but please know as soon as I can tell you, I'm going to tell you. But in order for this manifestation, this thing that happened to unfold, there were 3 things that I recently really embodied. And that is what this podcast is about. And I really do feel like this podcast is going to help you if you are someone that has been manifesting something or calling something into your reality, but for some reason that thing is maybe attached to other people. So it could be attached to your your work and someone at work having to okay something in order for this manifestation of yours to come through. Or it could be that you need investors in order for this thing to happen. So you're really trying to wait and call in the right people to help you and say yes to this project. Or it could be that you're waiting for divine time, like maybe it's a health thing or a pregnancy or something like that, and you're just waiting for things to fall into place and the universe to do its thing. I just know that there is someone out there listening to this podcast who is waiting on a big manifestation of theirs that isn't completely in their control. And sometimes when we have these big dreams that aren't completely within our control, it can be really, really difficult, because I know what it's like to have a burning desire in your heart to really want something, to really just want something more than anything, but you aren't the person that can necessarily make this thing fully happen. You have to wait for someone else to help it come to fruition. And if that's you, I know that these 3 steps, these 3 ahas that I've recently really embodied are going to serve you in such a big way. So let's get into them. So my first tip for you is to keep the soil prepared. And I want to give you a little bit of an analogy to break this one down. So in order for this manifestation, this thing that you are calling in to come to fruition, it is going to need to be planted somewhere. Let's take the metaphor of a field. So you have a field where you are planting your manifestation. And in order for this field to come to fruition, in order for it to bear fruit, you need someone to come over and water it. But you don't have any water. You don't have any water. You don't have access to any water. There isn't any water around. So you are waiting for this water to come. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that those seeds are planted and that that field is ready so that when it is watered, whatever is planted there, whatever it is that you put there is actually going to grow. So this means going in and getting out the weeds. This means making sure that you've got all of the machinery and the people to help you with the field once things start growing. It's really about looking after the environment that the manifestation is going to be grown in. And this means many different things. For me personally, this means going into my mind and pulling out those weeds, those subconscious limiting beliefs and those limiting beliefs that I am letting kind of grow in my mind, doing the work to pull those out so that when my manifestation comes in, I am ready. I am in receivership. I am in this high level of self-belief and self-trust that I can make this happen. This is meant for me. I am going to do this thing. So when the thing happens, I'm not dealing with all these limiting beliefs and this imposter syndrome. So when you are waiting for a manifestation to happen, it is your job to keep the soil prepared. This is not a time just to idly wait and just to be in this like wishing, washing kind of energy. This is a time to be doing the work to show the universe, like I am actively working on all of these limiting beliefs. I am actively pulling out these weeds. I am actively going in there and making sure that the container that this manifestation is going to grow in is the best container possible. So that is my first step. Go in there and prepare the soil. My second step that has really helped me lately is just to assume that it is happening. So going back to this idea of planting the seeds and waiting for the rain to come, it is this absolute belief, this absolute faith, this absolute certainty that the rain is coming. You have planted the seeds, you have got everything prepared, and the rain is coming. And you just believe that it's coming no matter what. It is a certainty. There is no ifs, there is no whats, there is no maybes. It's no. The rain is coming. The soil is prepared. I am just waiting and surrendering and waiting on the rain. So this has been huge for me, like absolutely huge. And I know this goes into the law of assumption, but if I'm honest with you, sometimes I do not use a law of assumption as much as I should, especially when it is a big thing. Sometimes I'm in this kind of freaked out energy of like, oh, is it going to happen? Oh my gosh. Like I get all heady. This is something that I've struggled with in the past, but I have recently really stepped into this absolute certain energy. And it has been so game changing for me. There are so many things that I have wanted to create in my life that I'm like, oh, maybe this or maybe that. And I've had this kind of like hot and cold, wishy-washy energy about them. And I have stopped that entirely lately. There are now a list of things that I am calling into reality that I am absolutely certain are going to happen. But the thing is, I'm not certain on the timeline. I don't know when these things are going to happen. Some of these things could happen when I'm 50 years old. Some of these things could happen when I'm 80 years old. Some of these things could happen next week or in 6 months' time or in 3 years' time. But I am certain that all of the things that I am desiring are going to happen. And that has been such an energy shift for me. There is a level of certainty that I have now created in my mind. And the certainty has come from taking the timelines of things. I have recently just had this energy where I've just stopped worrying about age and time and needing and wanting and desiring. And instead, I'm just certain and sure and confident and cool and calm and collected. And it's so interesting because I feel like in the past, I had a judgment, which is what I've been doing some shadow work on and really clearing the weeds out on. But I used to have a judgment on certainty having arrogance attached to it. I think I've had so many times in my past where I've met someone that seems really sure of themselves or really certain. And I have associated that with arrogance. And I don't want to be an arrogant person. I don't think that's a good trait to have. And because of that, I haven't allowed myself to embrace certainty. And now I've just let go of that. And there is this lightness to my life, to the unfolding of my life and the way things are happening that has just been born from having this certainty. And I feel like when you take the heaviness and the desperation out of things, it just allows things to just come at the right time. And when you're in this certainty, you can actually be so happy in the uncertainty. And I know this sounds so weird, but I feel like I'm very uncertain on the timing of a lot of the things that I desire in my life. There are some things that I'm really uncertain when they're going to happen, but I am certain that they are going to happen. And that's been such a shift. So I can be so calm now in the uncertainty of when, because I am so assured and relaxed that the certainty that they will happen is there. And there's just no second guessing that. I hope that makes sense, but that has been a huge shift for me. And the third step that I want to share with you that has been so fundamental for me in having this manifestation unfold and something that I feel is just so important is to surrender and to trust. And I know this one really kind of blends in with this assumption and this certainty step in step number 2. But surrendering and trusting for me recently has been huge. And full disclosure, surrendering for me has been the hardest part of manifesting. Oh my gosh. I feel like actually when I did my 8-step manifestation process, which is episode 2 in this whole entire podcast, one of the steps was around surrendering. And I remember even when I shared that, I even said, this one is so much easier said than done. And I feel like it is one that so many of us struggle with. But recently, this concept of surrender and this energy of surrendering has become so much easier for me. And I feel like it has become easier because I have been assuming and I have been so certain that the surrendering has just been kind of like just part of that process. Like when you assure things are happening, when you just trust, when you just know, when you just assume and you just don't question it, then you are just able to surrender and let loose and relax. And this manifestation that happened in this last week, it was wild. I literally called Inez. So Inez is someone that is on Team Mindspo. She has worked with me for 6 years. She is the one that edits all of these podcasts and helps me produce and get everything out there. And I'll never forget that the day before this manifestation unfolded, I was on the phone to Inez and she asked me about it because she knows that I have been wanting this thing to happen for quite some time. And she's just, how's that thing happening, Rochelle? And I'll never forget. I was on the phone to her and I was like, you know what? It's not in my hands anymore, Inez. I've just surrendered it. If it happens, it'll unfold in divine time. I'm just going to let it be. Rather than giving her like this massive update like I usually would and sending her like a chaotic voice note and just going into the whole thing, I was just so nonchalant. And it was because I was just so certain that no matter what, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And I just have to surrender and let it go. And surrendering is, I feel like so often it is the one reason why the thing hasn't come through. And I feel like this was like a big lesson for me with this recent manifestation. And I feel like someone listening right now needs to hear surrender, surrender, surrender. Let it go. Completely surrender and just send it up to the universe, to spirit, to God, to whatever you want to call it, to source, to the divine. Send whatever it is that you're worrying about, stressing about, and say, hey, if it's meant for me, I know it's not going to pass me. I'm surrendering it. I'm letting it go. I'm giving it to you. I'm trusting you with this, because that's what I did with this manifestation. And literally the next day it happened. And I feel like for me, this has been such a big lesson that many of the things that I am desiring or wanting to call into my life, I'm clinging to too tightly. And I think the lesson here is that you have to let go, you have to release, you have to trust. And I feel like that is a process of becoming certain, assuming, and just being okay with it not being here right now. And just trusting the timing of your own life and knowing that it is your job to be in the manifestation, to embody the manifestation, to feel like you already have it right now. That is your job. It is your job to prepare the soil, to get everything ready, to trust, to embody, to be in that energy like it is already here. That is your work. And it is so much less about doing and so much more about being, like just being a magnet to your manifestations through your energy, through that relaxed acceptance. And I think that one of the reasons we struggle with this is because we're in such a masculine society. There is such a masculine energy to a lot of the manifestation teachings that are out there. It is this like force going for it. There are so many to-dos. There are so many hacks. There's all these rituals and routines. And manifestation is a lifestyle. It's just a way of being. It is a state. It is an energy. So get out of the doing and get more into that receivership, more into that flow, more into that certainty and acceptance, and just be in the energy that the manifestation is already here and it's coming. And if you knew it was already coming, if you fully trusted the universe that it was already coming, that it was on its way to you, how would you show up today? How differently would you be in your body position right now? Would you maybe roll your shoulders back and just unclench your jaw? Would you sit up a little higher? Would you have a little bit more of a smile on your face? Like, how would you feel if you knew it was coming? Because if it's meant for you, it won't pass you. So just trust, surrender, be certain, and prepare the soil and know that it's coming. I hope this episode served you. I just had to get on my mic and share with you those 3 tips, those 3 takeaways while the energy was fresh, while I was in this kind of aha moment, because this has been a big aha moment. I feel like this has really been the universe giving me something that I've always desired, but also giving me a lot of material to help you. I've really been seeing my life a little differently. I'm starting to look at all of the lessons and the blessings and the ha's and the ups and the downs and the challenges in my life as teachable moments, as ways that I can serve, as the universe using me as an example to help others. And it's made my life so much lighter, because now when things happen or I struggle with things, I'm asking myself, well, how can I help someone through this? How can I use the things that are challenging me to help someone else move through the challenges that they might be going through? So I hope today's episode did that. I cannot wait to get on this podcast soon and share some of the news that I have for you. And I am just so appreciative of having this community, of having you, and being able to just chaotically set up my lights and talk to you. It's kind of like therapy. It's funny, when I started this podcast, I didn't know how it was going to feel, and it feels better than I ever thought it would. It's such a happy, positive, fun place for me. And I get so excited about talking to you, and I get so excited about connecting with you on social media. So if you haven't already, follow me. My Instagram is Rochelle_Fox, and the podcast Instagram is @Mindspo. I've just been loving connecting with you all through the comments on my Instagram, and just building this community, because I feel like so many of us in this community, we are dreamers, we are doers, we are people that want to go out there and make a difference. And I'm so grateful to be part of your journey and to be on this roller coaster of a ride called life with you. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next one. Over and out.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. You can discover more from Mindspo on Instagram and TikTok by following @Mindspo and myself @Rochelle_Fox. If this episode inspired you, then please pass it on and share the love. And if you're new to our world and you want to elevate your mind and step into your best self, then be sure to download our app, Manifesty, from the App Store and take advantage of the free trial. With Manifesty, you can create your own vision board movies, practice powerful meditations, and set affirmation reminders so your phone supports your journey towards that abundant vision of your future. And lastly, always remember, you create your own reality. So go and make some magic.